We all know that guy that has a spurt of motivation every few weeks to start working towards something. They'll go to the gym for a few days, they might start reading a new book, they might even start a new project, and for all you know, they could even start basing their entire personality around that one thing. Fast forward a couple of weeks and that guy has already given up on that thing and is either gone back to their old day-to-day or has already started obsessing over a new thing. The thing is, it doesn't mean that that person is fundamentally flawed, or nor does it mean that they're not a serious person. It just means that they're relying on motivation to get things done, and that shit doesn't last. Life is made up of the small decisions that we take each and every day, and those add up over time to shape who you become. Motivation comes and goes, and if you're going to rely on that to propel you forward, you will struggle. If you're on it one week, and you're on top of the world and you feel like nothing can stop you, but then the next week you're feeling burnt out, going back to your regular routine, not really getting things done, what was the point of going on that crazy burst in the first place? Motivation tends to come as the result of something external. It could be something you saw, something you heard, something you felt, or something that found its way into your life. It might last for an hour, it might last for a day, it might even last for a week or a month. But no matter how long it stays, by nature, eventually it will go. Discipline, on the other hand, is unbeatable. Discipline comes from within. It comes from the habits you build. It comes from the things you do without fail. It comes from a change in identity. The goal here isn't to tell you that no one's ever benefited from watching motivational videos before, but rather to show you why they aren't a long-term plan for success and show you how you can build your life around you to actually help you get towards your goals. The thing that people struggle to understand is that it's not the huge decisions that you make in life that are going to determine your fate. Who you marry, where you go to university, where you move to, what career choices you take. All of these are incredibly important decisions, but none of them are the type of decisions that you make overnight without having taken hundreds of smaller decisions to allow you to get there in the first place. What actually determines the direction that your life is going in is completely dependent on the micro decisions that you make every single day that compound on top of each other. Going to the gym when you don't feel like it, being consistent with chipping away at the project you're working on, talking to that person that you think's cute but you haven't mustered the strength to do so, having that difficult conversation you've been avoiding because things aren't bad enough to warrant the discomfort it will bring, staying in that weekend when all your friends are out partying, investing in going to that event or on that trip where you'd be exposed to a bunch of high-level people, cutting off that friend that you've been close to for years but you know isn't a good influence on where you're trying to go and you're just with them because it's uncomfortable to distance yourself. All of these decisions on their own might not be so big, and they might seem inconsequential at the time, but they all add up. Doing one of these things once might already do something for you, but the truth is, change takes time. We live in a world where attention spans are getting shorter, and instant gratification and speed is everything that most people are looking for. As much as you can change who you are in a short period of time if you put enough work in, it's the addition of the work that you put in over a longer period of time that allows you to see greater results. Rome wasn't built in a day, and nor should you expect to be able to change overnight. The truly worthwhile things in life tend to take time. They're the type of things that are painful now, and you'll only truly start to see the results weeks and months down the line. With everyone just thinking about the newest thing, the quickest win, the fastest route to dopamine, you'll find that it's sometimes hard to see people that realize the truly better ways of being and living are on the other side of delayed gratification through discipline. So, while some people incorrectly interchange the words motivation and discipline, what are actually the key differences between them? If you look at their dictionary definitions, you can see it clear as day. The dictionary defines motivation as the reason or reasons for acting or behaving in a particular way. Being disciplined, in contrast, is defined as showing a controlled form of behavior or way of working. Even from the way in which these words are defined, you can see that the key difference lies in where these words stem from. Motivation stems from the things that you see or that happen to you, finding its source externally from yourself. When you're dependent on external circumstances, other people, or what you see, you can't rely on all the variables and your reaction to them being consistent over time. On the other hand, when you're dependent on yourself and what you foster in your mind, you can train yourself to show up every single day. So, why should you build discipline, and more importantly, how does one actually do that? You develop discipline by showing up every single day and doing the little things that will add up and move you closer to where you want to be. Waking up earlier, reading, working out, sending outreach messages, approaching people, meditation. These are all examples of this. The more you do these things, the better you get at them, and your experiences will add up from rep to rep over time. The beauty of discipline is that you can see it as a form of starting to bring some motivation to you. The more you see yourself stacking up the little wins every day, the more motivated you'll actually be to continue going at it. The key is to build discipline as a baseline and then use motivation to actually propel yourself and make you more excited to keep going at it. You may build up the discipline to be going to the gym 4 times a week consistently and be doing this for a few weeks in a row. And one week you might just find the motivation to start going 6 times that week. And that's great. But the key is on the week after, you have to be going back to your baseline and going at least 4 times that week, and not just treating it as a one-off and allowing yourself to have a rest week after that because you already put in the work. What you don't want to do is be dipping down below that baseline that you set for yourself, because motivation is great to get things done, and you might even progress more in a week through motivation than through discipline. But over time, you will always make more progress with discipline. The best way I've found to build up discipline is to actually keep track and record and quantify what you're doing. By doing that, you'll have a visual representation of what you've done so far and allow you to actually look into the future that you're moving towards. There are all kinds of apps out there that you can use to keep a track. The one I use personally is called Done, but you can even make your own customized trackers on platforms like Notion or ClickUp and just keep a track of what you've been doing. The biggest advantage I found with tracking is that it inherently adds a cost to actually breaking your streak, where you see your number go back down to 0. For example, if you've chosen to start tracking the habit of meditating every day and you're having one of those days where you really can't be bothered, you may look at that 20-day streak you have and think about how far you've come and really think if it's worth breaking it for you that day. Inevitably, when you're starting out with literally anything, you will have days that you won't be able to stick to what you set out to do. And that's perfectly fine. They say it takes 21 days to actually start building a habit. So those first 3 weeks that you're actually working on something are going to be the toughest to build consistency with. When you do see the tracker go down to 0 though, one of the biggest cheat codes that I've found is to apply the 2-day rule. Everyone misses a day and nobody is perfect. Life gets in the way, shit happens, there's something you have to attend to, and for whatever reason, you just can't do whatever you had set out to do that day. When you start out with anything, you might miss a day, you might miss a couple of days, you might even miss a few days in a row. But the problem starts to become when that habit that you wanted to start doing every single day is something that you do every other day, every few days, every once in a while, and eventually rarely ever. If you have a day that you don't manage to do whatever you had set out to do, don't beat yourself up over it. Just don't allow it to go on to 2 days in a row and become a continuous thing, especially in those first few weeks where you're actually building up that habit and training yourself to keep doing it consistently over time. Eventually, once you build up enough momentum and put in enough reps to be doing the things that you want to be doing, you're not just someone who's doing that thing. You start to become that person that does that thing, causing a fundamental shift in identity, not just in practices, but in who you actually are. And that brings me to the final point of this video. You need to become the type of person that makes things happen. Truthfully, there are 2 types of people in this world. The type of people that life happens to, and the type of people that make things happen. Building up the discipline to do activities with delayed gratification, working on yourself, and taking action every day are the things that allow you to become the type of person that belongs in the latter group. One of my favorite verses in the Bible comes from the Gospel of Matthew in the New Testament, which reads, "Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you." When you truly become a seeker, opportunities will find their way to reach you. When you start to develop yourself and start seeing some results, people will want to meet you. When you start to take control of who you are through your actions and you stick to them for as long as it takes without quitting, you naturally develop into the person you want to be. The amount of effort that you put in to start developing a new habit is the most amount of effort that you're ever going to have to exert for that habit. I truly believe that everyone really knows what they should be doing. You know that you need to exercise. You know that eating shit food isn't good for you. You know that you are better off with a clear mind. You know that the results you're after are on the other side of the consistent inputs that you need to be putting in. The key is to recognize where you're at, be humble and realistic about it, and start putting in the work from there. Some people start off from such a low baseline that they're genuinely much better off just putting in one new input at a time, tracking one new habit and sticking to that, instead of trying to overwhelm themselves by trying out a bunch of stuff all at once and having it all collapse at the same time. One of the biggest lessons that I've had to internalize over the last few years is that you can honestly only compare yourself to the baseline of who you were yesterday. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 100. You don't know how much work it's taken them to get there. Over time though, you'll see that the effort that you start putting into these things comes naturally to you. It starts to become a part of who you are. Once you're at that stage, things start flowing, and when it rains, it pours. More people start to find their way to you, you close that first deal, and then another 2 come off straight off the back of it. The person you've been wanting to meet starts hearing about you and is the one to actually reach out to you in the first place. You're becoming more competent, and therefore you're growing in confidence as a result of it. Great things take time. The best short-term investment that you can make is to build up the habits that will help you in the long term. As the saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. It was built brick by brick through time and effort, one small victory and conquest at a time, adding up on top of the other. You should treat your journey in the same way.